With our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach.
The information on this program is intended to share the experiences others have had in battling addiction and to let you know there is hope to recover, no matter how bad things may seem. Please do not change any program you are on, especially if under medical supervision, without the approval of your doctor, counselor, or other professional treatment.
I got a feeling we're going to raise a couple of hallelujahs tonight. Welcome to Recovering Hope. My name is Marcley. Pleasure to be with you again. To be with you again? Yeah, to be here with you again on this nice Wednesday evening in the port city. Recovering Hope is all about what the title sounds like. So many people, for various reasons, perhaps have given up on that hope that's real. Please don't do that. As long as there is breath in your lungs or that of your loved one, there is hope for recovery. And our reason for being here is to share various experiences of other people who have been through that process from all sides, really. And sadly, there are far too many who have lost a loved one to this horrible disease, but they are working hard to try to help others not see that same fate. And we so very much appreciate everything that they do as well. If you'd like to contact us at any time, please feel free. recoveringhope.org is the website. You can email me through that. Suggestions, stories of your own. There's lots of resources on that page and podcasts of previous episodes. So please don't hesitate to go there. And before I get into some of my notes from last week and the such, I'd like to introduce my guest so that those looking on Facebook are saying, who is that woman sitting next to Mark? Well, her name is Shelley Choquette.
Hi, everyone.
Shelley's a local business owner, and she's got a story of hope and recovery that she'll share with us.
I do.
And I really look forward to hearing more of that, Shelley.
Thanks, Mark.
I appreciate your time for coming down.
Absolutely.
And as I usually do, in the beginning of the program, I want to just do a quick review from last week. We spoke with Cynthia Munger all about the fight against Purdue Pharma. This, what is referred to as this bankruptcy scam, and it sure seems that way. I think the single most important piece of information I can share with you from that interview is to please go to Oxy Justice, OXY, justice.org. On that website, you'll see a couple of very simple tabs to send a letter to Judge Drain. He's the judge that's presiding over this bankruptcy, and there's some information on there to help guide you on how to write this letter. Of course, be respectful no matter what your experience has been through this, particularly but not limited to the opioid pandemic. There's also a petition that you can sign, so it's all right there for you. You don't have to start from scratch. A lot of people, some of the aforementioned that I brought up about those particularly who have lost loved ones and all of the work that they do, they've gone to great lengths, and Cynthia was one of them to help make this website and to make it easier to get in the fight. And, you know, if you're like I was, well, this won't happen to me. It won't happen to my kids. Yeah. That's what I thought, folks. Okay. I was wrong. I was very wrong. So please get in the fight. I think if you're not part of the solution, you are perhaps part of the problem. So get involved. oxyjustice.org. And now, Shelley, thank you.
That's
I appreciate
quite a lead-in from Oxy Justice to me.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I didn't plan it, but I'm glad that you liked it. But please, local business lady, I think that you had heard either the promo for our recovery home or heard the program and called me up and said, I'd like to do something, in recovery, perhaps together. And I didn't know then, but you've got a story of your own. So
Yes,
the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And
Sure.
I know that anytime I'm able to share a little bit of my story, if it helps another person, then that is God's promise that my struggle will be used as a lesson and or a moment of clarity for another human being to get us one step closer to what he would have us to be today.
Yeah, and that's what why I feel I'm doing what I'm doing. That this was his plan.
Yeah. So, and I heard I'm visiting from another state, and my businesses are here in town, and I was listening to the radio station because I do enjoy conservative talk radio.
That's good.
And I heard I heard your voice and your in how you were explaining what you were doing with the house that you have, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want to do. This my goal after being sober for a little more than 10 years. Not that time matters, but with that much time, I've had an opportunity to understand what I really want to do to help the recovering community. And I'm interested in being able to help people by giving them affordable housing while they're getting and staying sober. Because a lot of times it's a struggle for most people to learn how to live with others in a sober environment.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes in with that. Never mind the stress of having to be sober or clean, but also, how do you pay your bills? How do you do something legal and make enough money to pay your bills? And so giving someone an affordable housing in a safe environment, for me, especially a Christian and safe environment, is something that I want to do for my future as well. So when I heard your story, that's when I knew that God was prompting me. I was the right time at the right moment. God, there is no God mistakes at all.
Right.
Everything is planned. And so here I am today. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story is that, I grew up in an amazing family, a very, very large family. And
how large was it?
So, well, it was, there's 8 kids. My parents were quite young by the time they had 8 kids. So they had 8 of us under the age of 10 by the time they were 29 years old. So there's a lot of us. So, but
I'm one of 9. I don't know if I told you that when
I
we
think you
had
did,
breakfast a week or so ago.
Yeah. So, it was an amazing childhood. It was dysfunctional, but who wasn't? I was born in the 60s. My twin sister and I are the last of the 8 kids. And so
they had doubles at the end.
We had doubles at the end, yeah. My dad joked and said when they started coming in 2s, we quit. So my dad was a very gregarious and charismatic man, and unfortunately, he was also he also had the disease of alcoholism, but did not get the help that he needed before he passed. And so I watched that, and
that's got to be hard.
I wish that I had been sober back in the 80s because I maybe could have helped him. But that was not God's plan.
That's
God's
right.
plan for me was to struggle through my alcoholism and get sober in my late 40s. And I can tell you from my own experiences that I tried to stop drinking so many times by myself. I knew in my heart of hearts that I was alcoholic, but I thought I could handle it. And everyone I hung around with were big drinkers and druggers. And I had gotten, I had gotten in. It's not that I was still a really hard worker, but I had gotten in with like the kind of people that were okay with everyone else getting wasted and blacking out and doing things that were inappropriate or, not really accepted in other circles where you were held accountable. So I wasn't held accountable.
Some people call that the unspeakable things.
Yeah. So luckily for me, the unspeakable things didn't go as deep as they could have gone if I had continued drinking. So I use that. It's a reference from a recovery program, a 12-step program of, not yet. Like it hadn't happened to me yet because I quit drinking in time. So I saved myself the misery of what some other people have gone through.
Well, you just reminded me of something that somebody said. Addiction is suicide on the installment plan.
Yeah.
And perhaps, you were
It's
on
exactly,
that.
That's exactly
plan.
what it is.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that you're killing yourself.
Right.
You don't have the mental capacity to understand that what you're doing is not normal. You have what happens, and I've learned this by reading, some literature, is that the mind of the alcoholic or drug addict, we have told ourselves lies for so long that we don't know how to differentiate the truth from the false. And so we make our own truth. And that's why I say I didn't realize, I knew there was a problem, but I didn't know that I was the problem. So
everything else was,
so,
right?
Yeah, everything else was. And it's easy to play the blame game.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that I knew in my heart of hearts that I was alcoholic, and because my father was, and I knew that, and
So was mine.
it's a hereditary gene. I do believe I was born an alcoholic. I don't know what the science can prove or not, but I know that
they say 50% is hereditary.
I was born with a hereditary gene that I was predisposed to be addicted to either drugs or alcohol, and it runs in my family. I have one sibling who is almost identical to me. It's funny, we're not twins, but she and I look like twins.
Oh yeah.
And my twin sister and I don't look alike. So,
Eternal twins.
yeah, but so I knew that I had a problem, and I thought to myself, well, if I can go 30 days without drinking, then I'm not an alcoholic. So it was very difficult to go the first day without drinking. I was in my late 40s. I was dependent on alcohol through everything that I did. And so the first day without drinking was very difficult. But then I made it the first time. I made it for 26 days without drinking, and thinking, I'm a born-again Christian. I got saved as a Christian in 2002, but this was this was in 2008 that I was trying.
Yeah,
not
doesn't happen to
not
Christians,
to
right?
drink. Yeah. People think like I already had the white light experience in 2002, and a lot of things changed. But my drinking was my will, not God's will for me, and I took that back. In all the other areas of my life, I gave my will over to God, not knowing that I was giving that over. God just blessed me with a lot of other things that changed overnight, but my drinking did not. And so I would go, I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to this, like trying to stop drinking is a struggle, because I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
I worked and then I drank, and those were the two. That was what I did. And so when I quit drinking the first time for my 30 days, I made it 26 days, and then I drank to make up for time. So I drank more. Incredibly, the thought of drinking,
because you deserved it.
Because I needed and I needed to make up for the lost time, because I haven't been drinking.
Right.
So that became my story. Every 3 to 6 months or so, I'd say, I better take 30 days off. And sometimes I would make 30 days, and sometimes I wouldn't. But I'd always drink to make up. So it got to a point where someone said to me, "Why don't you just quit drinking?" And I can remember the look I must have given, like, are you crazy? Like, why would I quit drinking? Yeah. And because the thought never even occurred to me to quit drinking. That's how delusional I was, that drinking wasn't a problem. But it got to a point where I was trying not to drink every other month. And then I left I left Wilmington to move to Charleston, and I put myself into a detox the second day I was there.
Good for you.
The first time I was ever in a detox. And I got out of there and I stayed sober. I thought if I could stay sober for a year, then I'm not.
Then you're all better.
I'll be all set.
Yeah.
And I made it 8 months. And it just spiraled down very quickly.
So there was no aftercare after the detox? Kind of went back to your job, your business, or whatever?
Yep, and I was back to running businesses and making friends and learning Charleston, and and I met someone that was also sober, But we didn't talk about me being sober. We just talked about me. I just didn't drink. And
okay, there's a difference.
So there was a lie already right from the get-go.
Yeah.
But he is still very important to me. He's an extremely good friend. He's the one that actually brought me to the recovery. He's the one that actually got me to recovery. So anyway, so after my second detox, I still, I was okay for a few months, and then I drank again. And then, quite honestly, what brought me to my knees and brought me to understand that I really did have a problem that it needed to get some help from is that I missed a very important birth in my family. And I was so drunk that I couldn't put a text together. I mean, this was over 10 years ago, so we didn't text then like we do now. But
Right.
I couldn't get it together. And I missed the birth. And I could have been there. And I was so drunk that I missed it. And
So
that's
was it
when
sisters, brothers.
this was actually my twin sister's oldest daughter's first child. And they're
wow.
up in New Jersey. And I could have flown up to New Jersey. I had the finances. I had the time. I could have been up there. And I was so self-consumed with me and a bottle of vodka that I couldn't get away. And blacked out, and didn't realize that the baby had even been born. So what happened with me, Mark, and I think it's really important for people to understand this, is that, everybody's story is different.
Yes.
Everybody's bottom is different.
Yeah.
I didn't have a bottom. Like I said, I didn't go through the yets. I haven't done the things yet because I quit drinking, but I didn't lose my family, my friends, my job, my finances, my car, my home, my animals. Like, I didn't lose those things. What I was losing slowly when we talked about suicide is I was losing myself.
Right.
And when I lost myself completely, that's when that and the birth of my niece's daughter, that was the catalyst that brought me to my knees, and I had to be completely honest. And in the book of recovery that I'm used to reading and working with, it talks about when we concede to our innermost selves that we're alcoholic, is when we actually come clean with ourselves. And that's the first time I was actually completely honest with myself. And what happened to me is that I went and told on myself. I was at a recovery meeting very early in the morning, and it's funny, but it's not funny, but I was so filled with anxiety that I drank a beer on the way to a meeting.
It is funny, but not funny.
It's not funny.
Right.
So it was a Saturday morning meeting, and I had not drank the day before. My friend had come over and helped me, and I had been sober for the day on Friday, and I went to the meeting on Saturday morning, but I filled with anxiety, shaky.
Yeah, understandable.
So I stopped to buy a beer, and it made me feel better. And I got to the meeting, and I told on myself. And I told on myself at that meeting, and I picked up, in my recovery, we have markers of time with chips.
Right.
And I picked up a chip, and I left that meeting, and there was a small sip of beer left in the can. And I drank that last sip, and I got home, and being responsible, I threw the can in the recycling bin, and the desire to drink was completely lifted. Like, I never had a desire to drink. Never have, even everything that I've gone through.
Wow.
The desire to drink has never come back to me.
Wow.
So the miracle has happened to me in the program of recovery. And so now what do I do with that gift that was given to me? And that's part of the reason why
Share it.
I'm here tonight, is to share, because there is hope in recovery.
Absolutely.
And the people that are hopeless, it brings me to my deepest grief and tears for people who don't think that they can ever get sober.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think that they can get clean and sober, but you can.
Yeah, there are so many that have. You pointed out that everybody's story is unique and different, and it is. There are common denominators, but so also are everybody's stories of recovery.
Absolutely.
This is what it took. It's a very unique situation with your great niece's birth.
Yeah.
I think that's what that's
Yes.
called, right?
Yeah.
And the miracle of, okay, you took that last sip and you must have said, okay, that's it. You didn't even know if you meant it,
Honestly,
probably.
I didn't say that was it. I know God.
Okay.
God said that was it. You no longer need this in your life. I'm going to show you a life that is far greater than you will ever imagine.
Wow.
And there's a Bible verse that talks about that my church reads at the end of service every week, and it talks about how God is able to do more than we were ever asked or imagine.
Ephesians 3:19-ish.
According to His will,
Yes.
that is at work within us and the church
you
and
go.
of Jesus Christ. And so,
That's an awesome verse.
It is.
That's
It is an awesome verse.
More than we can ever imagine.
Or ask for. And they
Yes,
and I try to explain to a lot of people how big my world has become. Where when I was drinking, I thought we all have this superiority thought about ourselves. We think very, very highly of ourselves, even though we're alone most of the time, drinking or drugging. And then when you get sober, or when I got sober, my world has opened up. I've been able to do all of the things that I've wanted to do, and I'm still doing them.
Good.
Because I'm sober today.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, how did this affect? When did you become a business owner? It sounded like you were still pretty active in drinking, but didn't hold you back.
No. Well, I look back now, and they say 20/20 vision is always behind.
Yeah.
So I look back, and I can see where God has worked with other people for me through God, and working through these other people is how I become successful in business. I have an older brother who is taken over many roles. He's been my mentor. He's been my boss. He's my partner. He's been like a father figure. He's my cheerleader. He's my support.
Nice.
He's my encourager. And he asked me if I wanted to move to Wilmington to open up a gym together. And I, at the time, I was running 3 restaurants for a family down in Florida. And I worked for this family for 9 years, and that's all I did was work and drink.
Yeah, that's easy to do in the restaurant business.
Yes, it is. It's very convenient.
Yeah. Full bar and everything.
Very convenient. So, and because I was such a hard worker, I could get away with it for a long time. But so I moved to Wilmington to open a gym with my brother, and I managed the gym. I did the construction, I did the demo and the construction. Like I did the physical demo, which I didn't know. I was so
Didn't know you could do that.
I was so green. I didn't know it was demo. And so then working our tails off. We were successful because we have entrepreneurship within us. That's how we were raised, and so. From that, we were able to open up more locations, and we've been very successful.
Good.
So it's hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Anything that's going to produce benefits is going to be difficult, just like sobriety and recovery.
Absolutely.
I give the men so much credit, that I've come to know, working in the recovery business, that where they used to be and where they are now, that's work. It takes a lot of focus and the temptation is all over. So I give you and anybody else that is to this day clean, sober, and whether it's for years or months or days, it's one day at a time.
It is one day at a time, which is a very hard concept for most people. Because it's good to I like to make plans, and I'm a little bit of a planner, and I'm a control freak. So for me, it's very important for me to have goals, to set goals or plans for the future. But in reality, they're set. But God has to determine my steps today.
Right.
And so even though I have a lot of plans, and I love planning trips and events and social, social get-togethers, and I'm a social butterfly, and so I do a lot of planning and I do all of those things. But I have to know that nothing really matters tomorrow. I can make as many plans as I want, but God's going to determine what happens to me today.
Right. That's right.
And so, what am I doing today? Where are my feet today? Which is a common saying in recovery. Where are your feet right now?
Yeah.
So,
there you go.
I think we maybe should also bring up, the desire. Because the desire to be different than who you are while you're drinking and drugging is really big, because there's always the desire, and the desire might be small because it seems insurmountable.
Well, you just reminded me of something else.
Yeah,
I just made a note here.
Yeah, I saw that.
We're going to take a quick break, folks. We are speaking with Shelley Choquette. It's not spelled like that. That's why I had to look. Okay, folks. Is it French?
It is.
Okay, you got some Q's and U's in there. It confuses me. But this is Recovering Hope, speaking with Shelley Choquette, telling her story of recovery. And it's been a long road, and we're going to get back, talk about desire and taking off the masks. And I'm not talking about COVID. So we're going to take a quick break, TK, and then we'll be right back.
All right.
Besides my involvement in Prodigal recovery, I'm also in the construction business. I say that to say this. When we have tropical storms or hurricanes, the real hard, difficult, expensive, and dangerous work is usually the result of trees falling on homes or other personal property. Hurricane season is not the only time to get prepared for this. As a matter of fact, it's before and after hurricane season that you need to get prepared. My son Chris started his tree business called Climb Pro Expert Tree Care after Hurricane Florence. Chris has all the equipment and manpower to take on even the most challenging jobs. With over 20 years of combined experience, Climb Pro LLC can safely remove any unwanted hazardous trees from your property. They also offer tree pruning, elevation, dead wood removal, and other expert tree care services. Don't wait until you have a tree emergency. Visit climbpro.com, that's climb with a K. Check them out on Facebook or call Chris Marcley at 910-540-5249. Mention this ad for a 10% discount. Constructive Solutions is the name of my construction company. It's called Constructive Solutions because I focus on solving what it is my customers need and want, and there's always a way to get the job done. We're in our 25th year serving our community. We handle all types of home improvements and repairs, literally from your crawl space to your roof, as well as commercial alterations. We're a small, family-owned and operated business. My wife works in the office, and my son Dylan is my right and left-hand man. Combined, we have over 70 years of experience. Dylan and I face every project or challenge that comes our way. I learned my trade from my father, who was a builder until his eyesight failed him. I was showing some employees a picture of my father working on the second-story eaves of his home, and I said, "Can you believe he's 82 and up on a homemade scaffold?" They said, "He's 82? I replied, "Yes, and he's blind. Don't ever tell me it can't be done." So if you want quality, professional service for your home or business, give us a call at 910-231-6020 or go to markmarkley.com.
So on Facebook, is it Recovering Hope?
Okay, we're back on. And welcome back to Recovering Hope. My name is Mark Marcley, and I'm here with Shelley Choquette, a local business.
You're going to get to know my name pretty well before the end of the night.
Until tonight, I didn't know how to say it. You know, we've gone back and forth with emails, and I have her in my contacts, but it's one of those French. It looks like Choquette or something, but that's okay. But Shelley's sharing her story about recovery and struggle and benefits and how God has worked in her life. And before we stop with that last break, we're talking a little bit about the desire, and that reminded me of something. It's actually an upcoming guest. His name is Michael Brody Waite, and he's also in recovery, and he wrote a book. I believe the title is Great Leaders Live Like Drug Addicts. And he said it's basically the same drive, that same motivation to get your next high as it is for him in his business. And he's come up with this concept about being mask-free. And when I started reading about this, I thought it was COVID. You know, like he's an anti-masker.
Right.
I kind of am too. You know, I didn't jump on that mask wagon, but that's neither here nor there. But it wasn't about the COVID mask. It's about the mask that we all wear.
Yeah. Because
we want to tell people what we think that they want to hear. People pleasers, you know, when you're saying yes, when you should say no. I mean, I'm in the beginning of his book. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. And I think there's three principles that he goes by. One is be yourself. Practice rigorous authenticity. Do uncomfortable work, and surrender the outcome. And these are the principles that he goes by. And the guy's a multimillionaire today, which, again, the money, I don't care. That somebody's fame, fortune, if they're in recovery, they're working it, they've come to the other side. To me,
I tell you, it sure is nice
excellent.
to, when I think back about, and money is not everything. That's just it. I mean, we think that money is the key, and
Yes,
it really isn't.
It's going to bring you happiness.
And it doesn't.
It helps.
Actually,
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's nice to be able to have
to
extra
pay your
money
bills
to,
and,
you
yeah.
pay your bills, and you have a little
Right,
extra, and you can do. What I like doing with any extra money is I give it away.
Yeah.
And, and that's been a blessing. That's also a very biblical.
Yes, it is.
Principle for
Yep,
me.
yep.
And the more I give, the more I get. But I mean, if your focus is that it's easier to make money when you're high, or a lot of people, there's always that saying like, it gets me through my shift or whatever the case is. I mean, it's amazing what God can provide for you instead of you thinking that you're running the show. And so the desire for me, like I did desire to be better because I knew what it was like to be sober, temporarily. But I mean,
Right.
I knew that I made better decisions. I didn't spend money that I didn't have. I had better relationships.
Yeah.
People actually did want to hang around with me, not just the people that I got drunk with.
Right.
And the desire to be better. And I've always been a very outgoing. My dad was very outgoing and gregarious, and I got some of that personality from him. You've always known what I was thinking because I was going to tell you. So I've learned to like maybe curb that a little bit. But
So you've taken off your mask. Maybe you
I
never
never
had one
had
on.
a mask.
Okay.
The problem is
That's
that
good.
I needed a filter.
Okay, that's a good one.
That was the difference. But when I go and carry the message of recovery in different places, I have to, I always express like, there's two sides to the coin. Like the side to like, the desire has to be one side. Like you have to want you have to want it.
Yes,
and
that's
typically and there's this saying, and I have so many sayings, but it's really true that the desire is there, but the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. You'll change.
Right.
And, for a lot of people, change is very scary.
Yeah, it is.
And it was for me as well. And, with help from other people and God, you can get through that.
Yes, you can.
And, it's really important to me too. For me, like I tried to do it on my own so many times, and I don't know about anyone else's story.
I think a lot of people have. They start out like that. Yeah.
You start out thinking that, I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody else. I'm fine. But then you're not fine, or I wasn't fine.
Right.
And I realized that getting in with a group of people through this recovery program, it's a 12-step program, that I am surrounded by people that we don't all like each other, but anybody will stop and help me if I need help.
Yeah.
And having that kind of support around me has helped me to get through some tough days. I mean, the desire to drink wasn't there, but the thought of how bad things are was there.
Yeah.
And so having, being able to talk to someone about that, anytime you talk about it or journal about it, but especially when you get feedback from someone who's maybe gone through the same experience, gives you the ability to get through the one day at a time.
Yeah, that fellowship is very important.
Amazing. Like I have to say that without the fellowship of the recovery program, I might not have that many friends. I mean, I have a lot of friends, and they're not all in the program of recovery.
Right.
But most of my friends are.
Yeah.
Because that's who I like hanging around with. Because there's no pressure to be in the world of, there's no pressure to drink or drug.
Or put that mask on.
Or put the mask on.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And, I can't relate to that fellowship, as many can, as you can. And I don't regret that I can't. But I think I probably told you when we had our conversation at breakfast, I've done my share of drugs. I'm thankful that I never got addicted. I'm not any smarter or better than anybody else. It just didn't kick in and suck me in and make me do it day after day and night after night. And but I know what it's like, and I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. so many places. If I got caught with the amount of drugs that were in this room or apartment that we were, oh my gosh!
We wouldn't be on this radio
We
station
would not
right
be
now.
here. No. I would probably be dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's.
And Mark, what's out and about now? What a lot of people are, what's happening. I see is that a lot of people are starting at a young age, and
Yeah.
and it's the world is a tough place to grow up. And so it's a coping mechanism. Someone says, hey, this is what I take, whether it's like a prescribed pill
Right.
or whatever the case is, or someone gets, addicted to pain medicine. I mean, it's a hard world.
Yes, it
and
is.
so,
It
you
is.
think that that's going to help you, though, like to be like some type of a coping mechanism. And it just turns around and really bites you in the butt because it ends up being your worst enemy. And
Yeah.
so, I feel for people. I haven't done drugs since 2002, which was the year I got saved. And when I got saved and I had a white light experience, the desire to do drugs never came back.
Were there many drugs in your past?
I mean, yes,
Okay.
I mean, I started out with Quaaludes, and I snorted something brown one time. I have no idea what it was. And speed, we used to snort speed. I'd snort cocaine. I would do acid, LSD, mushrooms. I mean, I never did anything with a needle.
Okay.
Which I don't like needles.
Yeah,
so
me
I,
either.
I mean,
Yeah.
I never went that route. But
Right.
I mean, I was a cocaine addict and I thought it was normal.
Wow.
And then I got saved, and I thought, oh my gosh, who was I?
Wow.
And now I'm sober, and I look back at my drunkenness, and I think, oh my gosh, who was I? Because I don't know who I was back then, and no one else did either.
Yeah.
That was very
Yeah.
hard, even though
Right.
I was very open and honest, too honest. I didn't know who I was.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something about, and I think some people can take, prescription for some kind of whether it's a sleep aid or for maybe minor anxiety, that kind of thing, and not have it control their lives. But today, with the fentanyl that's in just about everything, I mean, I read something a couple of weeks ago. There was 150 pounds of pot that was seized, I think up in Pennsylvania, had fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
People can smoke a joint and die. But especially the pills. I've spoken to many people on this program who have lost sons and daughters that were not active drug addicts. They might have been a mild partier, okay? And I'm not condoning it, but, kids are going to go out. They're going to have a couple of beers and say, hey, man, you want a Xanax to, take the edge off? Okay, what's the big deal?
Right.
And it really isn't that big of a deal
Right.
for some people. But today, that can kill you.
Yeah.
And it's just becoming more and more prevalent. I work with a lot of people now since I've been doing this program, the people that I've gotten to know and how active they are. And there's a campaign that's about to begin. I don't know if it's just North Carolina, but I'm going to get involved. We'll hear more about it here. It's if 10 people will send out 10 postcards and make 10 phone calls with, making people aware of the fentanyl problem. And it's almost like one of those pyramid things,
Right.
and then those people tell
Yeah.
10 people, because this message is not getting out.
Yeah.
But as I've said often, on this program, we started this last October, everybody knows more than they want to know about COVID. Well, COVID is an epidemic. It's a temporary, I hope to God it is easing. I hope it stays away. But drug addiction is the real pandemic. The amount of money that has been spent on COVID compared to drug addiction, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, without the most recent stimulus, this is as of October of last year, almost $50,000 has been spent on every man, woman, and child in the United States.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that much. I know
About
it's a lot, and
$16 trillion.
it ain't over.
And that was before these most recent $2
Yeah.
trillion, $6 trillion, where they were throwing
Yeah.
money around like it's nothing. But it's way out of balance. It's way out of balance.
Well, and I think, and during the, yes, I agree with you. Let's hope that COVID is not something that we're going to go through on a regular basis,
Right.
although that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes,
but,
it is.
I do know that the amount of addiction and suicides is up
Yeah.
because of the restrictions on us.
That's right.
And how, a lot of communities are thinking like, well, what can we do to to help the people, should we, you know, a lot of liberal communities are saying, well, let's put up stations where they can come and get their free, you know, needles, clean needles, or whatever the case is. Yeah, and, you know, I don't know enough about it because I'm very busy in some other areas of my life, but you think about the number of people that are dying and the suicides that are being committed because people are on lockdown, and they're and isolation is not good for a drug addict, and it's actually it's hurting more people than helping. And so if all of that money is being spent, let's get some I don't know, community activity. Like, let's walk around with signs that say, do you have any idea how much you know, how much drug addiction is affecting everything? It affects families, which is the most important. For me, it's the most important front to drug addiction is families, and, you know, people in schools. And then, you know, I mean, it can go so deep. And you think about the person that you see passed out on the side of the road, right? And you know that probably something's wrong.
Yes.
And it's not like a heart attack. Yeah. There's probably some drugs involved there.
Right.
And you think about that one person has a family.
Yes.
And that family is now, like you've gone through with your kid.
Yeah.
And your sons, and so now that family has been affected, and so now that family, because of the relationship being severed because of the drugs, now that family has got a wall up that they don't want to have anything to do with anybody else who has a drug addiction. So there's not enough knowledge being given out to people to understand what it's actually doing to our communities.
I think that's a very good lead-in to something that I took off of the Facebook. We have interviewed Lori Lee Rosano some weeks ago, and she is an incredible author and resource for people in recovery. She's just amazing, and I was going to read her whole thing. It would have been probably 3 pages, but I think this will get the point across. And she titled this, "Addiction Stole Your Child. Here's how to get them back, and you," in parentheses. Addiction in the family changes you, and not for good. You're still functioning, but just. You suffer in silence, screaming on the inside while smiling outwardly. I imagine those who have lost a loved one know this pain all too well. You may even be one of the lucky ones. Perhaps your loved one is alive, sort of. Their heart still beats, but you've died 1,000 deaths since they've first picked up. You may have thought it was just normal teenage behavior at first, but when your child didn't come home at night, you realized there might be a problem. Don't you wish you could go back to then, to the beginning, before your child turned into someone you don't even know? It wasn't very long ago you were changing their diapers and holding their hand. You were their whole world. You were Wonder Woman and Superman and the best mom ever. You were the under-the-bed monster checker, the goodnight kiss, giggle partner, hand-holding, tear-wiping, scraped knee fixer-upper. But there is nothing left to the child that was once there. The addicted young person standing before you does not resemble your child at all. Perhaps you've wondered if it was anything you did or didn't do.
And, you know, honestly, like that whole writing hits home, but because I have many friends that have lost family members to drug addiction, and someone just recently overdosed in February that was, you know, a good friend. And what hits me most in this is the parents are wondering if there was anything they did or didn't do.
Right.
And as a parent, you know, that's a really hard struggle.
Yes,
because
it is.
It's a fine line. Do
It
you
is for
invade
me.
their privacy?
Yeah. Right.
Do you invade their privacy, or
Right.
do you understand that they're growing up and they're trying to figure out their own lives?
Yeah. Invade their privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Invade their privacy.
Yes.
And later, if they don't like you, then you're doing a good job.
Yeah, that's a good
And I mean,
point. Yeah.
parenting is. I'm going into counseling. I'm in school to go to become a counselor, and so, you know, counseling is really important for a lot of. I would say every individual could use counseling.
Yes.
Because we're all a little wacky.
Yeah.
Some more than
I would
others.
say speak to yourself, but I say that openly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, parents, you know, I mean, and it's hard because I have kids that are in my life that are not my own children, but I see what they're going through, and I'm really concerned about their well-being because I know what it can lead to, you know? And so trying to be a parent that you're invading their privacy or checking up on them on a regular basis or, you know, and there's nothing that a parent does or doesn't do that makes a child an addict.
That's right.
So remember that that has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with you, but you can be involved with preventing your child from losing their life.
Yes.
And going through the pain. I mean, not always, unfortunately, not always.
No, that's right. And, you know, one thing that I often say when that subject comes up about, you know, blaming the parents. I mean, my wife and I mean, we said, look, we are our children's parents. Are there some things I could have and should have done differently? Absolutely.
Right.
Would it have changed the outcome? I don't think so.
I don't know.
But be that as it may, what I like to say is, look, have you ever heard of Adam and Eve? They were pretty close to God. Well, one of their sons killed his brother. That's pretty bad. Do you think that they said, and they probably did, you know, hey, Adam, what did we do wrong? You know, Eve, I don't know. It's not our fault. You know, God's got, you know, I'm not trying to make light of it.
It was the apple.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
Stay away
that's
from the
right.
fruit.
Well, it was the devil.
Yes.
But really, it's, you know, so don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
You know, we're a Christian family. You know, we went to church every day as a family. We all ate dinner around the table, prayed before dinner. You know, we did all the supposedly right stuff, but things happened.
Yeah.
And now, you know what? This is now a good lead into the scripture that I forgot to read at the beginning of the program. This is something I come across, and for those listening, you know that sometimes I share the devotional from the previous week. And happy Father's Day, by the way. Thank you, Mark. You're welcome. But it's called A Father's Discipline. And I'll explain after I read this why I'm reading it. And I didn't write down the scripture that it came from, but some of you may know. My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For those whom the Lord loves, he disciplines, and he scourges every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you endure. God deals with you as with sons, for what son is there whom his father does not discipline? All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. Yet to those who have been trained by it, afterwards it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness.
Amen.
And I would think of that, you know, when we were going through all the mess, and when I'm on the other side, it's like, okay, God, now I understand. You know, that's one of the reasons I'm behind this microphone. That's why we run a recovery residence for men, is because I didn't know it, but I was being given an education. My son was being given an education. You know, he was out on the streets and doing all that unspeakable stuff. But he's now running a great business. Beautiful daughter who's about to be 1 year old. Did I show you a picture?
You did.
I'm going to show you again.
Show me again.
All right, show you
me
again. Well,
She's
here
so
it is.
cute.
Okay.
I mean, how could you not love that?
All right.
Yeah.
It doesn't always end that way. And the fact that my son has a business, to me, I don't care if he was just flipping burgers at McDonald's. I don't care. Doing something regular, not getting high, putting his mind to good work. But I do believe that, you know, when I read this, and I do pray that, you know, God, please, I don't need any more discipline. You know, I have a hard time saying this in a prayer, like, whatever you want, Lord, you know, is what I should say, but I say that with hesitancy. You know, whatever you want, but make it bearable.
Yeah.
Don't make it hard on me. Don't make it hard on my kids or my wife. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's biblical to pray that way.
No, and I think about the story of Job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, who was,
Oh, yeah.
you know, who was really used
Yes.
by the devil, and God allowed it. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, and he praised God throughout all of the hardships that he went through.
Yeah.
And yet he still came out, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, if you read the book of Job, it's a
Yeah.
little hard to read for some people.
I know.
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But, you know, he didn't curse God.
No.
And so we do have to be prepared. You know, I do believe that there's a purpose for each and every one of us. There's, like I said, right from the very beginning, there was a reason why I heard this, you on the radio, your commercial or whatever it is. There is a purpose
Yeah.
for this, no
Yeah.
matter what, no matter if I know what it is, if
Right.
if we discover who's been affected by this, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because that's God's plan, not
That's
mine.
right. That's right.
And
I love the end of Job. I think it's around chapter 38 when Job is asking God all these questions. Like he might be saying, well, but why did you let, and then God says, all right, now gird up your loins like a man, and let me ask you a few questions, Job.
Yeah.
Where were you when I laid the foundations of the world, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And oh man, I just love that.
Yeah. And and that kind of reminds me or makes me think that we, again, when we're drinking and drugging, we think that we're on top of the world, and when we're not high, we feel horrible about ourselves. But God can use us in ways that He would never be able to use anyone else. I do believe in divine intervention in each person's created soul from God, that you can be different tomorrow than you are today, because that's what happened to me. And I've seen it happen to so many people, that you're one of millions and millions and millions and millions of people. And yet you're so very unique that God took the time to give you everything that He gave you. So each one of us is gifted with something. And if you're drinking and drugging, you don't have the opportunity to really use those gifts. But if you find yourself wanting to get clean and sober, there's help for you. And you can ask God right now. You can pray for God to come and help you through whatever you're going through. And you call in the name of Jesus to get help, and Jesus will come and stay with you and save you. And He can lead you to a life where all of your gifts can be used to help others.
Absolutely.
And you no longer think about the next drink or drug. It's an amazing miracle.
Yeah.
And
it is.
and I see it every single day.
I've heard it a lot.
In my program of recovery, I see it every single day.
When you mentioned divine intervention, next week's guest is an interventionist. And he's a man that's been through it. He's the author of a book called Junk Box Diaries. Herb Stephenson is his name. And I want to read something real quick here that he posted on Facebook. You can tell where I get my education, right? My information, I mean. For 16 years, no, that's Tanya. That's somebody else. I'm sorry. Hang on, folks. Okay, this is from Herb. This was just yesterday he posted this. We have now served 101 amazing families who had someone suffering from alcohol. We've been very, very busy helping families stay coached and with healthy boundaries, education, and aiding them in getting their struggling loved ones into treatment. We all know that the numbers of those lost continues to rise, but I'm here to tell you that the numbers of those saved is going up even faster thanks to our amazing helpers here in the region. Like my staff here at Genesis is the name of his business. I couldn't be prouder to share this with all of you. As the ODs and recidivism continues to climb, we're still here in the trenches battling for those who cannot help themselves. We're here and available 24/7 to assist anyone, regardless of their situation financially, insurance, pending court cases, CPS involvement, employment or unemployment, homelessness, etc. We want to be here to help you overcome and get back to life more abundantly. We've always vowed to be a light to all who live in the shadows, and we still do today. Please feel free to share this information with anyone who may be in need. We just want to help. And that's Herb Stephenson. He'll be our guest. He's been on the program a couple times before. But if somebody's listening and that struck you there somehow, here's the number, 219-916-7236. GenesisOfRecovery.com is the website. And he among other things, he does interventions. And knowing Herb, I'm sure he would refer to that as a divine intervention. It's kind of funny. His brother actually lived in our halfway house for a period there a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I understand Lucas is doing well today, and we're very happy to hear that. But yeah, there's... Yeah,
it's amazing to me, that kind of a story, because I have a sister who's been in and out of jails for most of her life. And she does seem to get into trouble quickly and go back to jail. And so drugs. Yep. There's a lot of options on the street, but crack mostly. But it gets to a point where after so many times of being in jail, for me, because I've never been to jail, more than being arrested, but you think that, you would want to like change that, but apparently you you can get used to anything,
Yeah, you can.
And the same thing, you can get used to being sober. So if this gentleman was in your house and now you have his brother and that has this recovery program,
right.
I mean, that's a divine intervention.
Yeah.
You can't plan this. This is
can't.
God's hand
You can't.
working in everyone's life. What a gift.
Yes.
I'm definitely going to take this information with me.
Good.
Because
Good.
I do try to help as many people as possible.
Yeah. Herb's a good guy. And, when you spoke about jail, I forgot to mention my friend Derek, who's probably listening, and he's in
Hi, Derek.
the local prison. Shelley says, "Hey, Derek."
Hey, Derek.
You just made him smile. But Derek, if you are listening, I didn't get a chance to finish your letter, but there is more good news on opportunities for when you're done at O2. I promise you that, my friend. And like I told you, you're walking the walk, you're not talking the talk, and I do believe that your family will be restored, and that you've got a lot of good things to look forward to. So, but I will finish that letter to you, and thank you for being there and for being my friend as well. I met Derek after a radio program, and he had called me up after, and he just wanted somebody to communicate with, to write to, and sadly, entire family, nobody is corresponding with him at all. And I went to visit him once, and I'm due for another visit. They just opened up visits again a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But what an incredible man. I mean, he leads a Bible study there at the prison now.
Wow.
And he is in the Word all the time. And his letters are just filled with Scripture. And there are some people that will talk to Christianese, and it's not for me to judge, but I do believe that this man's he's going to be overwhelmed with opportunities.
Oh, that's fantastic.
When he gets out. I've met a few people actually through this program. Let's see. Yes, actually, because of this program, the two people that I've the second one he doesn't know about yet, that we'll be interviewing her in a few weeks, I think. She's from California, but she has an incredible prison ministry, helping people, while they're in, when they get out, trying to get them a place. Another gentleman who spent 10 years behind bars, he was on the program a couple of weeks ago, Mark Hall. Now he's dedicating his life to helping others. He has a program called Faceless No More, helping people that are homeless, addicted, or imprisoned. And correspondent, he's spoken with Derek. I'm pointing to my computer. So there's hope.
Yeah.
There's more hope.
And your title is Recovering Hope. So, again, let's just reiterate that
yes.
If you happen to turn your radio on, or you're on Facebook, or however you're hearing this podcast or this broadcast right now, just please remember that there is hope for you,
yes.
just like there was hope for me, and there's hope for anybody who has a glimmer or a glimpse of what they think maybe could be changed in their life. There's hope for you. There's a way better life. And don't think that you're hopeless, because like Mark said, if you're breathing, then there's hope.
Yeah, God doesn't make mistakes.
And he does not make any mistakes. Yeah. And if you're hearing this, please reach out for help. Call any of the numbers. You can probably go back onto Facebook and get some of the information. Or
yes, and
please reach out.
Our website, recoveringhope.org. And folks, you can email there. Phone numbers are there. We run a recovery residence for men. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a counselor, but I know a lot of people who are very, very good and effective, people who can share their story with you. And as Shelley had said, that fellowship, that speaking, somebody else to come alongside you and pick you up when you're feeling low. I don't care what your station is in life or what your situation. We all need that.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be independent. We're interdependent. And, Shelley, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For coming down,
Thank
for
you
your
for
time.
having me.
And
very blessed to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. And we'll do it again, I think.
Yeah.
And, folks, next week, like I said, we have Herb Stephenson coming up with Junkbox Diaries, and also a gentleman named Jeff Breedlove, who has organizations down in Georgia. They're called Recovery RCOs. Recovery... You know what? We're going to have to find out what the COs are next week.
Recovery Community Organizations.
Thank you. Did I write that there?
You did.
I did, and I'm not even reading it. Okay. And he will tell us what that's about and what we can do. And it's just more things for people to do struggling with addiction. Well, folks, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Shelley.
Yes, thank you. God bless. And
yeah.
please reach out for help.
Yeah.
It's here. It's available.
There is hope and recovery. God bless and good night.
Good night.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach.